The botched Brexit deal has left the UK scrambling for basic necessities. And for a third day running, Britons are waiting to fill up with fuel. Oil firms claim that a lack of drivers is causing transportation problems in moving the fuel from the refineries to the forecourts. Some operators have had to ration supplies and others had to close their gas stations. This despite repeated appeals by the government for the people to remain calm as the frustration over the fuel shortage rises.
We have plenty of petrol, both in refineries, output is at normal levels, and we have plenty of petrol in stores. And the most important thing is that people just buy petrol as they normally would. There isn't a shortage. There have been some shortages of HGV drivers getting petrol to forecourts, but actually that's quite limited in the petrol sector. The cause of these current problems is that panic buying episode. And the most important thing is for people to start buying petrol as they normally would.
Members of the government might deny the shortage, but the long queues of cars at various fuel stations narrating a completely different story. Motorists express their frustration at not being able to fill up their vehicles, and many are not being able to work as a result.
All weekend I've had no petrol, literally on zero, but we've been driving around trying to get him to school and trying to get petrol at the same time.
It's ridiculous, I've just turned up, going to work normally, got 20 miles of fuel left, just can't get any in Milton Keynes where I actually live.
I need fuel. I was meant to be at work at 8 o'clock, what time is right now. It's terrible. I tried to come here last night, same thing. Went to 3 different petrol stations, all closed.
The British multinational oil and gas company BP has said that nearly a third of its petrol stations have run out of the 2 main grades of fuel. It is the second largest fuel retailer in the UK. The fuel panic coming in as Britain faces several crises: an international gas price surge that is forcing energy firms out of business, and a shortage of truck drivers that is playing havoc with retailers and leaving some shelves bare. The haulage industry says the UK is short of tens of thousands of truckers. This is due to a perfect storm of factors, including the COVID-19 pandemic, an aging workforce, and the exodus of foreign workers following Britain's departure from the European Union. But the real reason behind the chaos is the UK's post-Brexit immigration rules, which do not allow EU citizens to live and work visa-free in Britain. Trucking companies have been urging the British government to loosen immigration rules so that drivers could more easily be recruited from across Europe. The panic buying has forced the British government to suspend competition laws and allow firms to work together to ease the shortages. The measure is known as the Downstream Oil Protocol. It will exempt the industry from competition legislation, in short, minimized disruptions. This step will allow the government to work constructively with fuel producers, suppliers, hauliers, and the retailers. While Britons are queuing up at petrol stations, leaders of the government and opposition are caught up in allegations and counter-allegations. UK's Transport Minister, Grant Shapps, had earlier claimed there was no shortage of fuel and even called the panic a manufactured situation, blaming it on a hauliers association.
There's plenty of fuel. There's no shortage of the fuel within the country. So the most important thing is actually that if people carry on as they normally would and fill up their cars when they normally would, then you won't have queues and you won't have shortages at the pump either.
On the other hand, the Labour Party leader, Keir Starmer, said the British government failed to plan for a shortage of heavy goods vehicle drivers, which was well predicted after Brexit.
This is a complete lack of planning. We exited the EU. One consequence was there was going to be a shortage of HGV drivers. That was predictable. It was predicted. And here we are on Sunday. So I say to the Prime Minister, we need a concrete plan today to deal with this problem, because otherwise this is going to go on till Christmas.
In an attempt to mitigate the crisis and the troubles, the UK government will go ahead with issuing 5,000 3-month visas for truck drivers starting in October, and another 5,500 for poultry workers. The new temporary visas are aimed at easing backlogs in the run-up to Christmas. The decision to expand temporarily the critical worker visa scheme is a reversal by the Prime Minister Boris Johnson's government. The government had tightened post-Brexit immigration rules, insisting that Britain's reliance on foreign labour must come to an end. And for more on these developments, our London Bureau Chief Mandy Clark sent us this report. Take a look.
At least here, the panic buying seems to have subsided, but that could be down to the fact that many people are at work, and it could pick up again after 5 p.m. Now, the government has no plans to bring soldiers to deliver the petrol. However, the Ministry of Defence will be helping to train lorry drivers to meet industry shortages. And those earlier reports that the Prime Minister was considering army assistance at petrol stations have been dismissed. Now, politicians are urging motorists to stop panic buying petrol, saying there is no shortage of fuel. And there has been some shortage of heavy goods drivers, that's known as HGV drivers, and they need a different license from the regular driver's license. And that has been the issue. But some blame Brexit for many of those drivers who were European Union citizens returning home. Now, the government is planning to offer visas to entice them back, and the government is hoping the crisis will subside within the week, but firmly blame motorists for the panic that created the issue in the first place. Mandy Clark, World is One, WION, London.
WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.